Hey guys, if you're not a member of the Street Cop community, you are missing out. It is where you can find all the ebooks and all the resources that I put out to help you do your job better. Check it out at streetcopcommunity.com or streetcop.com. Just look for the link there and we'll see you inside the community.
Be nice until it's time not to be nice. The famous Roadhouse quote from Patrick Swayze. I've spoken with 300, 400, 500 pedophiles in my time on the job, and I still have to shake their hand, put on a mask, and treat them with respect, even if they don't deserve it, to be able to get the information that we need to get. You can always escalate from a certain situation, but what's the bare minimum, just like in the use of force continuum, what's the bare minimum as far as communication can we do we don't need to start at direct, we can start at ask and then tell, and too many times people go straight to direct.
111, 110.
Training to be a street cop.
You guys, welcome to this episode of the Street Cop Training Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Street Cop Training. My name is Dennis Benino, and a lot of people have been waiting for a while for a new podcast episode. My apologies to everybody. I have been working on Street Cop Community, where you can find our 3 ebooks, and also Proactive Patrol, the new version that came out. Profound and big, exciting news. If you haven't seen it yet, always check out streetcop.com. If you're looking for the community, check out streetcopcommunity.com. It is fantastic. But with that being said, great way to come back after a couple months being off. We have a dude who I thought that I was masculine looking until he got on the friggin' thing. And I'm guessing you eat shards of glass for breakfast based on the way you look.
Yes, sir.
Followed and wash it down with like first form protein. But with that being said, I'd like to introduce everybody to Brad Beeler. He's got a fucking crazy resume and apparently speaks on stages all over the place. You may have seen Brad at a stage, at a conference speaking somewhere. He's got a crazy resume. So, Brad, with that being said, before I mess the whole thing up, why don't you just tell everybody who you are, where you grew up, what you did, when you left, what you do now?
Yeah. Thank you, Dennis. I appreciate it. You're a busy man, so thanks for getting me on. Retired from the Secret Service last year, small town kid. It was one of those things where I grew up playing cops and robbers and always thought I was going to be the cop. Grew up with wanted to be Poncherello, and it was one of those things that just kind of stuck with me. Went to college for criminology, went to grad school, and when I was doing that, it was one of those things where I had an internship with the Secret Service, and kind of blew me away. The mission was great, but more importantly, the people is what really blew me away. So 25 years later, I made a career of it. 17 years in Polygraph, permanent protective detail with former President Bush. Chicago, St. Louis, here, there, and everywhere. So really enjoyed that. Spent the last 8 years teaching interview interrogation at the Federal Polygraph School.
Just so you know, I think we're both at that age. And I got to tell you, I'm sure that you're older than I think you are because you look young. Where when you make a Poncherello reference, nobody gets it anymore, dude. So no, like John if Baker, we were hanging out, if we were hanging out somewhere and as a single man, I would say to you, this is how I preface it with all my friends who want to come and hang out with me as a single man, which I don't go out that often, but do not make references to TV shows or movies that we loved because you'll confuse the hell out of everybody. So about 90% of this audience wants to know what Poncherello is and what it was. It was a character played by Eric Estrada on a show called Chips. And as a kid, because I'm guessing me and Brad aren't that far off in age, you could watch this on TNT on repeat. I don't think it was TNT. Was the shit. So let me ask you this. How old are you that you made a Poncherello reference?
51.
Is it 51?
51.
Yeah, I was going to guess right. I mean, I'll be 44 next month. So very close. I don't think we were old enough to watch it while it was aired prime time, but I think it was the repeats, right? Dude, I watched the show every morning. I like lived on it. I loved it. Same story, same shit, inspiring. I wanted to be those guys. We got to get Eric Estrada on the podcast. We have to. The only thing is like, dude, people don't know who he is. And he's a cop, by the way. You know that? He's a reserve cop in like Idaho or something.
Yeah. Him and John Baker were great.
Well, John Baker was doing, remember, I don't know if they do it much anymore, but you could pay like a celebrity to say happy birthday to you or something like that, cameo. I was seeing a lot of John Baker cameos. A lot of people were doing John Baker. But, you know, dude, it's like when you make references on something about Mary, we're even getting to a place now where people haven't seen Wedding Crashers. Terrible. You know, which is wild to me. It's a fantastic movie. But let me ask you this. You know, you went the route of being a Secret Service agent right away. Did you
Mhm.
ever feel like you missed out on any part of the actual uniform cop car chases, bad guys, hot jobs, foot pursuits, things like that? Do you feel like you missed on any of that stuff?
100%. And I would see it daily with my partner, who was a third generation Chicago cop, and he kept me safe. Thankfully, they married me up with him because he kind of brought me up to speed. What you get at the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center is great, but it's not the real world experience that you're going to get on the mean streets of whatever city in America. So, definitely. And I will always say this to anybody that applies from being a local cop: if they get the juice, if they get the excitement from a car chase, from things like that, you're not going to get that in federal law enforcement typically. So, understand your true motivations for wanting to go to the Fed side, because you will lose out when it comes to that. But I did miss out. Probably 75% of my cadre of people that I went through school with were either law enforcement or military. So definitely that was something that I did miss out on for sure.
Yeah, you know, I've seen a lot of guys go federal and actually come back. And it has
Mhm.
nothing to do with the job. It's with the pay it ends up
Mhm.
being like they thought they were going to be doing things like they see on TV.
Yeah.
And listen, the federal partnerships, I loved working with the Secret Service. Those guys were the best. We had counterfeit cases, the only time I really dealt with them.
Yeah. Mhm.
So they were great. Like I knew some of them, right? Like there was a guy who was one, you probably know him. I'm not going to say his name publicly. We'll do it off air. Who grew up across the street from me. He was older than I was. He was a special agent. I actually did a job with him. We had uh how do I say this without sounding rude? Let's just say Biden was humming through our area showing off for no
Okay.
reason, pretending to save taxpayer money and blowing millions of dollars for optics. And it was he told me that he's like, dude, this is such a big game and such a joke that we're doing this for this guy. And he was the vice president at the time. And they're like, he's trying to show people he's taking public transportation, except it cost us a $500,000 in manpower to
Right.
get him up the Amtrak train from DC to New York instead of just taking a fucking plane. They could have just flew on, or the helicopter, whatever it may be. But with that being said, you know, I I also think that there are people who really enjoy the investigative side and the
Yeah.
protection side of agencies like the Secret Service and Department of Defense and things like that. So tell me about the things that were great about being in the Secret Service for 25 years.
Yeah, I'll start with the people. I mean, you just have a great cross section of people. It's extremely diverse. Like I said, military, law enforcement, people with none of that, and all the protection work, all the investigative work, especially during an election year, really brings out the best in us because you really help out your fellow agent, and that's what I miss right now. Being out a year, is I truly miss the people, but honestly, I miss the working with the locals. In Polygraph, we would always give back to the locals. So most of my Polygraph exams were on homicide and child sexual assault cases on the state side, because we know we're going to screw you over during the election year. We're going to pull your manpower, all that type of stuff, and we're not going to give you anything for it typically. So our wireless tracking trucks, our forensics training that we can give, and Polygraph is one way that we would work that. So that was really my nexus into getting into a lot of high profile cases, was trying to help out the locals. They just didn't have the bandwidth or the technology and funding to have Polygraph. So that's what I miss, is working with the locals and the people, obviously.
Do you feel, and you went through many administrations. There was shifts in 25 years of four or
Mhm.
five different presidencies.
Yeah.
How does it feel as an agency when there's such a big shift in presidencies and it's so closely related to
Mhm.
you're the center of it all right there. Was there better treatment, more mistreatment? Were you received well by certain
Yeah.
administrations and almost felt like you weren't appreciated or defunded by other ones? And I'm not trying to make this a political conversation, so you don't even have to
Mhm.
name names.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
actually prefer that you made an ambiguous response.
Yeah, I would say I've never experienced the negative. I've always experienced, I spent most of my time with the Bushes. When I first came on, I was on Governor Bush when he was running. So I got to see that aspect of it. I got to see him bring out a Thanksgiving turkey to us in the security room. I got to see all the Bushes because I spent most of my time with HW 41, and he would not travel until the day after Christmas so that the agents could spend time with their families. And that it just is amazing in that they put that in their mindset. But we truly are a very apolitical organization because every year when September rolls around and the foreign heads of state come in, we are protecting them. We're protecting communists. We're protecting Republicans, Democrats, independents, everyone across, every socioeconomic and religious background. So it's one of those things where that was one of the best parts of the job, was being able to see the world. Got to go to 40 countries and see how other protective details do their job. And for me, I think that kind of helped not seeing things from a political tone and not getting caught up into echo chambers when it comes to those types of things. But as far as protectees, you see that they put their shoes on just like everybody else. They have the same pain points as everybody else. They eat just like everybody else. They're normal people. And I think that's what really kind of blew me away the first time I saw something like that when you're around a president or a foreign leader.
I actually, oddly enough, was a cop in DC very briefly during the Bush administration. So, 04, 05, I think I was there for one of the inaugurations. And I had a friend of mine. She actually is an agent now. You probably know her because your organization is not as big as people think it is. I mean, how many
Yeah.
special agents, ballpark?
When I came on, there was about 1,900. There's been a drastic ramp up here recently after Butler, obviously, just because of what's happened, the political landscape that we're in. So I think they're actually probably over 3,000 agents now.
Yeah. So you probably know this girl because she's been around for a long time. Became friends with her because I was a U.S. Park guy. Very short stay. I was in and out. Um, as soon as I got there, I was like, oh yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'm out. Like this place.
Mhm.
Actually, a friend of mine just became deputy chief. Who's my one of my the classmates from my class. He's a really good guy, so I'm glad to see that he got deputy chief. And it's interesting that I'm at the point now in my life where like all my friends are the big bosses, and I don't know
Right, right, right.
how they're received. I know that they, like people like him overall. He
Different
doesn't have a
set of
bad
problems. Yeah, different set of
reputation.
problems in their scenarios, right?
So yeah. So my friend Stephanie, who you probably now are ringing a bell because her husband's also an agent. You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so she used to ride bikes with George Bush, and she would give me all the dirt because she was on UD first. And
Yeah,
she'd be like, "Yeah," she's like, "I actually," because I saw her, she was lumped up one time. What happened? She's like, "Oh, I fell, and the
yeah,
president was actually helping me up." Out of all the
yeah,
detail, they were up because he wanted to ride bikes with the UD people every day when he was in the presidency. I don't know if you recall that, but he did. I know that she got banged up, and he was the one like helping her get all bandaged up and shit. So this just credit to that guy. Again, I'm not a political conversation, but being
mhm,
on the inside of that, I remember hearing that story from her and being like, "That's amazing that the president was
yeah.
like literally helping you, like get medical aid."
100%. They are. That's how they are. I remember former President Bush. He knew I was a St. Louis Cardinal fan, and another agent on the detail was a St. Louis Cardinal fan. And he reached out to Cardinals management when they were in interleague against the Boston Red Sox and got tickets for us, unbeknownst to us. The fact that he would think that, or we're in Beijing and Yo-Yo Ma, another famous concert pianist, is playing in his room. He stops them and says, "No, the detail needs to come in and hear this. This is amazing." That's the type of individual, that he was. So we had some great protectees. I've been very, very blessed in that regard.
Yeah. So again, I'm really in the realm of the Secret Service conversation and not trying to play this political game because, if anything, I like to stay out of politics. Although for what I do and trying to disrupt what I'm trying to disrupt, I get dragged into politics and I don't want to
Yeah.
be in it, but I get dragged into it because people get confused on what my objective is, and so my objective is essentially making better things to make things better. And some of that comes in this podcast and some relief for some people and some clarity maybe in the confusion they're experiencing in life. But with that being said, how do I do this without like becoming the 6-year-old kindergarten kid that you're coming to visit and ask the typical questions that I'm sure you're typically asked? So, dude, let's just go with it. Tell me one great story that was a lot of fucking fun when you were in that black suit with your pin on running around. Like, give me a
I'll
good
tell
one.
you, yeah, I mean, something that really opened my eyes and it kind of blew me away as far as we had an old school agent, former local ATF guy that came over to the Secret Service. His name was Bill. And I was on my first protective intelligence mission. And I thought this is like low key, this is going to be great. We're down in the Midwest. I won't name the city, but it was one of these things where Lo and behold, call comes in to the Republican National Headquarters and says, hey, I'm a good shot. I'm going to take down Bush when he comes in town, so on and so forth. Which obviously now the clock starts. This is the day before the visit. So we go out. Luckily, Bill kind of, hey, let's go, son. He goes out, and I've never seen someone with just such confidence. And it came in from a payphone. The call came in from a payphone. There's no cameras, nothing that we can forensically look at, but he pulls out his little Spyderco and gets out a Ziploc bag, cuts the phone off literally the handle of the phone, receiver off so he can get prints. He's looking around. There's nothing there. There's like a trash can, kicks over the trash can. There's dirty diapers. There's all kinds of stuff. He starts poking through this. I'm like, what are you doing? Like the last thing that he sees is a little tiny styrofoam cup with a little piece of paper in it. And it happens to be the phone number for the Republican headquarters. So here's the phone number that the guy used. He bags everything up forensically. This is 2000. So, DNA was kind of an afterthought still. But we start going around looking for where could this paper cup be? Well, about a block away, there's a local grocery store. He goes in. We're in there, and he's kind of talking to the manager in the break room, just trying to see if there was any disgruntled employees. And lo and behold, right next to the phone, he looks over. He sees the little yellow piece of paper that had been ripped off. It matched up perfectly. He looks in the yellow pages, something that once again, I'm dating myself, but looked in the yellow pages, and well, there's the underlined Republican National Headquarters. Asked the, manager, hey, do we have any males between 30 and 50 that were working here this morning? Yeah, we got 3. The second one we look at, there's a layover on the 2s, exactly like on that piece of paper that they found. So now we're about 10 hours out of the visit. We get the home address. We roll over to the home address, and I've never seen, once again, such confidence and control and observation skills that he knocks on the door. The guy's wife answers the door. She says, hey, can I get you anything? We identify ourselves. He says, yeah, why don't you, if you could, kind of brew some coffee for us, because we'd like to speak with your husband about something. So we go in, he's seated at the table. And as we're walking to the table, Bill looks and sees a picture on the wall of this guy's service in Vietnam, and then a wedding photo of the woman that had just answered the phone. They'd obviously been married for 50, 60 years. So we sit down, he identifies himself, and he says, let's say his name's John. Hey, John, Secret Service does 2 things. We try to stop counterfeit from getting into the mainstream, and we protect the president and candidates. And he says, hey, are you printing any counterfeit money? And the guy says, no. He goes, well, now you know why I'm here. And he goes, we're here, and I'm talking to you because I see that you've served this country. I see that you've been in a committed relationship. And what it leads me to believe is that you made a mistake and you acted out of character. And I want to talk about that and make sure that you're not the boogeyman, so we can have a win-win situation here. And it was just, the guy immediately confessed. It was just amazing how he handled that situation, how he was reserved. And to me, it really got me thinking, wow, this is the best of both worlds. I can do investigations, I can do protection, and ultimately I can try to elicit information from people, which would later turn into Polygraph. But I just thought that was just such a great story of how Bill was able to have that composure and observation skills in that moment.
A lot of years of experience to be able to be that smooth in this game. And, some of the things that I'm trying to do is convey that the quickest bridge to having that kind of skill set is not being a dick. And I can't emphasize that enough with people because, young cops, and I would even argue, I'm sure agents as well, they haven't found themselves yet. And so in their mind, they think they're this position of authority and they have to exude authority. And I try to emphasize over and over again, anytime I'm in front of a crowd speaking, is like, dude, this is one of the biggest misconceptions about this profession, is the fact that it's not about being a dick. It's actually just the opposite, because the best cops, the best investigators, they are the nicest people. And I would tell guys when I used to teach my class, I mean, I still teach it, but when I started years ago, I'm like, hey, man, regardless of what my intentions are, I'm your best friend on the side of the road. If I have you pulled over and you're going to like me like I'm your best friend, you're going to remember how nice I was. We could be going to jail together and I'm dropping you off in about 3 hours. But a lot of people were thanking me as I was dropping them off in handcuffs at the county jail. Yes. But it took time 100%. To learn how to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Be nice until it's time not to be nice. The famous Roadhouse quote from Patrick Swayze. And it's so true. A good buddy of mine, FBI interrogator, would say his goal when he interacts with someone is to be able to get a Christmas card the following Christmas. Probably postmarked from jail, right? But he would literally get Christmas cards sent to him to the FBI field office because he would treat people with that much respect. I've spoken with 3, 4, 500 pedophiles in my time on the job, and I still have to shake their hand, put on a mask, and treat them with respect, even if they don't deserve it, to be able to get the information that we need to get. You can always escalate from a certain situation. But what's the bare minimum, just like in the use of force continuum, what's the bare minimum as far as communication can we do to we don't need to start at direct. We can start at ask and then tell. And too many times people go straight to direct. And honestly, not to take you off into a tangent, Dennis, but for me, I think Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu has been life-changing in that regard for me. For the last 12 years, I've done it. I did it to cope with talking to these bad people. But for me, I feel so much more comfortable in one-on-one situations. And I think I wish more people would train, because I think they would go to that tool belt a lot less. I think having that skill set keeps you from having to use it many, many times. You feel a lot more confident. And when something does go bad, you can mitigate it a lot quicker. I just see too many shootings where if somebody was a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, it would never have got to that level.
You know, I don't know if you're familiar with the work that I do, but I've been a very big proponent of this for a very long time. And I don't speak from a place of personal opinion. What people don't realize about me is all I do is collect data, make assessments, give recommendations. I do it in my life. I do it in my dating life. I do it with my children. I do it with everything. I explain it to my therapist. So I always try to preface it by this is not about what my opinion is. This is what I've collected as information and what I can compare through the variables of introducing different things into situations. What I've recognized is that I can't fix everything the way that I thought I could. So I'm restructuring it. And as I go along, it kind of dawns on me how the next thing can be addressed. But I'm probably gonna do a social media post on this right after this. But we could sit here and talk about how important Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is for the next 3 days. 40,000 people will listen to this, and literally nobody will go sign up. So what does that mean? How do you fix this? How do you fix this is, and this is why I'm sure that there's a lot of police academies that don't like me, because I create work for them, is that we go back to the academy when people are forced to train, and we get them a blue belt in the academy. And and it's not, what's crazy, dude? It's not that hard to figure out. It's just not a hard thing to figure out. So when we find ourselves in how do we correct this problem, there is this opportunity where people are being paid or forced to train for 6 months. You need to squeeze as much important stuff into that as humanly possible, because you haven't, I know Fletzy's good. I went to Fletzy for park police, but generally most municipal, state, and county police academies are just filled with minutia. It's just filler. It's all garbage. It's just crap after crap after crap after crap. And if you look at their programs, they've just been copied from one to another so they could check boxes and give certificates and say they did something. So, yes, where do we fix this? How do we fix this? People aren't signing up. People aren't going to the gym.
You give them half off. Our instructor gives them half off
Won't even
a membership. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this, Dennis, that one of the best moments I've had in the last 2-3 years of working is I was teaching a beginner's class, and we had a local law enforcement official come in, K-9 guy, and he got passionate about jiu-jitsu. And about a month in, he was having some problems with some stuff, transitioning to handcuffing. And he's like, hey, I get to knee on belly. We do this, we do that, but I'm having a hard time. I'm exposing my gun. I just don't feel comfortable. And so we started working on some stuff. It's Murphy's Law. The next week, same situation, individual I'm not going to jail. It is a full-on one-on-one, his dog's working, whatever. It's a life or death struggle. And he literally did what we just repped for 30 minutes. And he felt confident enough that it worked. His transition worked. He got the guy cuffed. It could have saved his life or his dog's life. To me, that just was like, we spend hundreds and hundreds of hours on firearms, which is obviously we need it. But our most important weapon is communication. And our second most important weapon is our hands before we have to get to the gun. We need it, but we focus so much on that gun. We got so many tackleberries out there on how do we come out of the holster. And we have so few people that can de-escalate a situation with their mouth.
Well, think about this, man. Like with the amount of police academies in this country, who is your instructors? I'm not, listen, I know there's a lot of people out there who give a shit. I hear from these guys a lot. They'll take a lot of things that I put out and start implementing it. They'll do it without permission, which I suggest that you do. If you know it's better for your people, don't go ask permission, just do it. Problem is when you play inside the box of permission, yours never progress. You can't be part of the factory if you're trying to improve the product. It doesn't work that way.
Correct.
And so I'll see people reach out to me and I'm like, hey, dude, like, is this about your ego or do you really give a fuck? Because clearly you can tell where I sit. And that's why people follow the things that I do is because I'm self-sacrificing. I lose a lot of money as a business guy because I cannot deny my truths and I have to speak them. But I also get a lot of patronage and people who follow what I do because they believe in what I say. Um, Even given half off, dude, I know these people. I've been, out in the field with these guys and girls 13 years now, outside in the country. It's hard to get through. And I've looked at like their physical fitness and I'm like, man, like, bro, like there's a lot of fat fucking people in this business. Are we going to get them on a diet? It's not going to happen. No. Right. So you could put it out there, give them some guidance, but they're going to be fat.
But they're going to be fat. And, Dennis, you know how that is. Sorry to interrupt is that, how you appear, right? When you talk to people that have either killed cops or attempted to kill cops and you get them down and you do a deep dive into what made you act that time, what do they say? Oh, I thought I could take them. Right. Now, they don't know that person's training. They didn't see the cauliflower ears or whatever. They just looked at how that person looks in their uniform or their suit. And they think, I think I can take them. So yeah, some of that is just that presence, but too many times it's just people not training. And it's not just about what you're getting out of it at work. You're getting an amazing cardio workout. You're burning a ton of calories. And for me, mentally, I will tell you, there is nothing better than training 3 or 4 times a week because you have to be 150% present in that moment. And as a result, you're not thinking about work. You're not thinking about the bad things that you saw on the street. So from a mental health standpoint, I have seen law enforcement officers that were really struggling mentally come into that environment. And within weeks, they're a new person.
I had this theory today. I'm going to write a book called Yeah, But, and how much I hate that fucking phrase. It should be like maybe end how, not yeah, but. I guess what I'm emphasizing is we know that there are fat people and skinny people who are very effective in jujitsu.
Yes.
And every person you talk to that goes to a jujitsu gym will tell you the toughest guy in this place is the last guy you think it'd be. And the guy who that guy is, this dork on the surface, will twist you up and eat you for breakfast. So if we know that people are going to go back to shoving churros down their throat and everything they can find at 7-Eleven that's processed and garbage, and dude, I've had my moments. You know what I mean? 4th of July this year, my friend Frank said to me, he hit me on the stomach outside of my house and said, "You fucking fat." And I was like, "Oh shit, I thought I was." He's like, "You're fucking fat, dude." And so I literally the next day, hearing that, just entered into my macro counting, and it's been profound. And if I give anything to anybody, it's unbelievable. Like what I feel like I look like now is just crazy. It's crazy. It's actually even a crazy social experiment. No shit. But anyway, I'm not going there about me. What we need to do piece by piece is start to remove blocks from these academic police academy basic training programs and start inserting things that work. And the whole thing needs to be overturned and rethought, and the whole thing's got to get the whole thing. And I got people reach out to me. They're like big directors, like couldn't agree more, but I got to follow the state thing. We got to get to a place, and no, they can say it on a stage. They don't like. It's either they don't give a shit or they don't know how. Because it doesn't matter. You get paid no matter how you perform, right?
Yeah.
It's public service. The check keeps coming in. So what's the difference? Who cares if these guys, if nobody swings sticks in public anymore and screams "get back"? Who cares, right? That's what they want at the state. So we'll do. But then the question is what do you do when these guys are fighting a person and they get killed or they have to kill the guy because they have no skills because you don't care that they had to swing a stick and get back. And like every cop in the world who takes their stick out for the first time and screams get back and swings the stick, finds out immediately that they're fucked. And the whole police academy has let you down. You're fucked. You are fucked. And now what? Now what do you do? Maybe the guy from Street Cop Training, maybe Brad was right. You heard this, but now you're getting your fucking face kicked in on the side of the road and you're going to get killed because, it's hard to get up. But with that being said, dude, if they just brought it into police academies and got these guys to a 3-stripe, a 5-stripe white belt,
That's
maybe
it.
to a blue in 6 months, game changer.
Dennis, you will literally take somebody that has no training whatsoever. And the way I like to tell them is, look, take a snapshot of yourself right now. And in 3 weeks, you would kick that dude's ass. And in another 3 weeks, you would kick that dude's ass. There is such tangible improvement so quickly you level up. I'm a brown belt now, and I want to get my black belt, but it's so incremental at this point now, as far as I don't see these gains like you do early on. So it doesn't take a lot. If you do jiu-jitsu for 1 year, you will be amazed at how many times you don't have to go to the other forms of the other things on your tool belt. And also just the way you carry yourself, your presence, I think has a lot to say. For me, I'm a big fan on first impressions, Dennis, is how we put things out into the world, not reading body language. I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've talked to your guests about pre-attack indicators, the breathing pattern changes, the clenched jaws, the blading, things like that you should see and say, hey, my stomach should have picked up on that. I should walk back on that. My belief, though, is you trust your gut in a tactical situation. You don't trust it in the interrogation room. It is an amazing evolved tool that came 200,000 years ago when we were on the plains to say, I'm going to use my ears, I'm going to use my eyes to determine what's not matching up here. And when you get that feeling in your vagus nerve that says something is not right here, call for backup. All right. Take a step back. Don't overestimate your abilities to deal with that situation, because you could be big. You could be a great jiu-jitsu person. If your chin goes from here to here, you go to sleep. So it's okay to call for backup. A lot of people's ego gets in the way. I mean, I find this in the Secret Service. Sometimes our most dangerous agents are the ones that are at that 3 or 4 year mark that think they've got it figured out now, right? They have that overconfidence versus sometimes the new people they're doing things by the book. They're going that extra step, if you know what I mean. So my view is, I wish if you would view a police academy like a UFC training camp, meaning I'm going to get the world's best striker, I'm going to get the world's best wrestling coach, I'm going to get the world's best this, and I'm going to create the perfect officer. From legal to this to that. And I think that's what you're trying to do with the model of your training, Dennis, is you're trying to get the best of everybody to create, a rounded skill set for everybody. But what's the problem? Law enforcement gets no money. So the training is going to get no money. So until that changes, you're going to get substandard product on the back end.
What's good, though, I will say, is there are a lot of people who care a lot and who put a lot of time, energy, and effort into not turning their back, regardless of whether it's good for them or not. So when we get selfless people who show up and say, like, hey, man, I want to use your platform to get some of this information out, and I'm like, yeah, like, let's do it. It's a very interesting dynamic, and the shift in law enforcement in modern day, end of 2025 law enforcement, is a very interesting one. And so I'm taking a lot of data in to try to understand what it looks like in the next 5 years, and how do we mold around the inevitable, sorry, let me tell you again, and how we mold around the inevitable changes that are on the forefront. And people have to take into account, like I tell a lot of college kids, and I hate to go off on a tangent here, I'm going to do a very quick one. Mm-hmm. People ask me, like, what do you think I should do after high school? I'm like, I think the first thing you need to do is figure out what jobs AI is not going to take over. That's it. So, like, these cops want to think that, like, their whole world will be the same in 10 years, or out of their minds. The AI, you will all be wearing meta glasses that will be talking to you in your ears of what to do next. Yeah. And you won't be writing reports anymore. That'll be a thing of the past. There'll be no police reports handwritten. You won't need translators. You won't need, you'll still need guns. You'll still need physical fitness and your ability to employ force if you need to. But a lot of that stuff is going to be some of this bullshit. I mean, a lot of it's going to be out the window. So as I'm making moves to try to make things better, I'm also trying to take into account like, I'll just spin my fucking wheels when I know something on the forefront. Like right now, I tell guys we'll write in our Facebook group. We have 100,000 members in our Facebook group, and they're like, "Hey, like, what's a good program to learn Spanish?" Like, you guys
Yeah.
realize that like Time Kettle right now in this moment makes an AirPod you can hand to somebody for 40 different languages. That goes into your and it actually works in loud environments too. So why would you sit here and learn when you can just and then those meta glasses are going to just translate for you. And then you
Yep.
have the new AirPods that just were released by Apple in September of 2025 that have real-time translation. So am I going to be a guy that's getting into Spanish for law enforcement? Be out of your fucking mind. It's over. It's done. You don't need to be the guy for Spanish law enforcement anymore. Anyway, back to you.
No, you're right. A lot's going to change when you put those glasses on, and it can see. You can program to say what are pre-attack indicators. It's going to sit there and it's going to be able to pick things up that you weren't able to see when you look into a car. A lot of those old school hacks are not going to be as necessary. So maybe we can use some of those resources to train people on jujitsu and some of the other things that we're talking about.
Yeah, it's just that we'll be, 15 years behind everybody else like we usually are, and then
Yeah.
have to pay significant. So what'll happen is there'll be some major event that happens. Some politician will come out and say, "Well, how come we don't have this stuff?" And you'll say, "Because you're full of shit." And like here we are. I don't know what's George Floyd 2019. 6 years
Mhm.
later, all these politicians demanding police change. What has changed? Nothing. There's nothing. They've done. I just talked to guys from Indiana yesterday. They just cut the Indiana funding by 10% to law enforcement. They had a Senate proposed thing. So Indiana, the state of Indiana, I don't know the details of it, has now cut funding to law enforcement by 10%. And these guys are like, dude, our training budget's cut in half immediately. Right? Really? We went from George Floyd to fixing everything to now we're cutting police budgets again. That's cool.
Yeah, definitely not the answer.
No.
Definitely not the answer.
But you know what the answer is? You and I, we can't wait for somebody who has a title or has been elected to fix this. We just got to fix it. And you're going to frustrate people. Sometimes the government will come after you, like me, and because I there's 5 reasons I could name, but the bottom line is I know my truth. I know what we're trying to do, and the amount of feedback I get from people who appreciate the fact that this is almost volunteer work in some sense. If you really think about it, what I could be doing with my skill set financially for myself, comparatively speaking, this is like fucking volunteer work that I do. Um, it falls on us, and if we don't accept that responsibility, it'll never change. You have to accept the response. If you are somebody out here who can make things better, don't ask permission, and also, how dare you not do something about it? But you can't ask permission. You guys are you gotta stop asking fucking permission. You can't do it. You're never gonna get anywhere. You got to be ready to ruffle feathers. That's how I feel. And sometimes you're lucky enough to get a guy at the top who is completely on board with what your mission is and gives you the blessing. And you don't have to ruffle feathers. But other times, how are you going to talk to a guy at the top who everybody hates, who hates everybody, right? Who has his ears closed, doesn't want to hear a thing about a canine unit? You know what I mean? Just that's typical pain in the ass, made it through the system, has no business being here. Mayor of Chicago. Sorry, I'll just throw that one out there, right? You know what I mean? Guy's no fucking
I
business being
understand.
here. Anyway.
I understand.
So let me ask you this. What happened to the guy from that story that you told about the payphone? What kind of charges did a guy like that get? What happens to those people?
Yeah, you would get federally charged with making a threat, and then they'd make a determination. I think he was quite older. They looked at the totality of the circumstances, and he probably didn't get the amount of time that somebody. We have hunters and howlers in these types of situations. You have individuals that are howlers that get online that talk a big game, and then you have the hunters that you never see until the last minute. And sadly, sometimes those become blurred because they get in their echo chambers and people can get radicalized so quickly now. You see that with the Charlie Kirk situation and others that that people can really get ramped up and they don't leave a digital, kind of breadcrumbs like we're used to seeing them, where maybe we can head them off for the act. So our job in a protective intelligence mission with the Secret Service has been much more difficult with the way things have, and the anonymization of way people can kind of drift in the background a little bit with more camouflage, I guess. So yeah, that definitely makes things more difficult.
Yeah, it's interesting times, and I think that if you see them from a certain lens, you tend to forget that it's also still a very great time for humanity, maybe the best ever. Even though that your news feed might be flooded with these horrific Republican versus Democrat, this, that, shutdowns, assassinations, assassination attempts. Yeah, it's wild stuff.
Well,
But
Dennis, we don't listen to each other. And what I mean by that is we get in our social media feed and we just keep rolling down that feed, right? And we never get out of that. And then the likes and dislikes and our interests continue to channel us down that rabbit hole. And that's the problem is I'll see people that I'll be talking to and they won't have access to the information I have. Like I've got one set of my parents are on one side of the political spectrum. My wife's parents are completely on the other side of the spectrum. They talk past each other because they don't even hear the news that the other one hears because of their media sources. And effective communication, when I'm interrogating people, I almost do that. I do my prep work and I look at their social media trail, and it's scary. I will tell you this just for people that are listening. People overshare. We used to put stuff in diaries 30 years ago, and now we put it all online because we're all narcissistic to a point. We want that validation. But from a scam standpoint, I know where you're at. Shoot, people are getting ripped off because they're live streaming with money or with jewelry. People are getting ripped off because they're saying I'm here and they obviously know they're not at their house. But more importantly, if I want to take advantage of somebody on a Bitcoin scam or a dating scam, I know everything about their life and I can create an artificial mythical person that they would be most likely to want to interact with. And I do that. Now I'll do that. I'll weaponize that and do that during an interrogation. But you also have to understand you're allowing potential predators to take advantage of you. And the boogeyman doesn't need any help. And that's what I say with my daughter. She's 14, is that you really have to be careful about what you're putting out there on TikTok and otherwise, because these predators, they take advantage of that. And when we do these to catch a predator operations, we do a lot of those helping local law enforcement. We will see that. We will have a fake Facebook or whatever account, and we will see these online predators coming to meet a 14-year-old. We will see that they go to that website and they try to create a new person in order to lure this person either into human trafficking or to take advantage of them for the purposes of sex. So we have to be really careful about what we're putting out there. Now, law enforcement, we can use that as well to be able to potentially talk to people.
Hey, if you love the Street Cop podcast, you're going to love the Street Cop community. I know I said it earlier in the podcast, but you have to check this thing out. It's so good. It's so profound. It's tax deductible. It's super cheap, and it's extremely valuable, and you're missing out. I'm trying to get you better at this profession. Let me help you. Check it out at streetcopcommunity.com or streetcop.com. Just look for the community link.
Technology is on the move so quickly. It's going to be very interesting to watch all these things. I just saw somebody posted a case out of Virginia, like literally today or yesterday, that said some guy just got 35 years in prison for making AI created porn of kids he knew.
Yeah,
and just like like it's wild stuff, man. Like crazy shit on the horizon for sure. Like and again, we say crazy stuff. There's probably the same words uttered when the first Model A Ford came rolling off the fucking assembly line and horses were about to leave. Maybe it's better stated that we're moving into a new world and a new era of technology.
Yeah, no doubt. The intensity of it. I mean, they're going to be able to literally, if you post a video of your kid, they're going to be able to take that AI, they're going to be able to take that voice, and they could FaceTime you and say, Mom, I need money. Mom, I'm in trouble. And that's not even them. And that's just, it's already out there for people to be able to do that. I mean, you see that with Jake Paul on that Sora app, whatever it is, where literally he's given up his likeness and you can just make your own Jake Paul video now and it looks so real. So got to be very, very careful what you allow other people to have information wise that they can exploit.
I actually think strategically that was a genius on his part, because it is such a great, and people know it's fake at this point, right? It's such a great way to raise more, just awareness that you exist as a human being. What I actually was thinking about that the other day. I'm like, what a smart move.
Yeah.
Guy's not an idiot, that's for sure.
He's playing chess, not checkers, for sure.
Brother, let me tell you. Let me ask you this. Obviously, you do polygraph stuff. I'm sure there are people listening to this podcast who may be
Yeah.
going through a police process. I'm sure these are questions
Yep.
you get all
Yep.
the
Love
time.
to
So
talk
let's talk
about it.
about like,
Yep.
yeah, let's talk about some myths and some truths about the polygraph process and
Yeah.
system.
Yeah. Myths, that it's 100% accurate. It's absolutely not. It shouldn't be used in court. Okay. It's very, very hard to regulate because on the federal side, we have a very tight guardrails on when it can be used, the type of cases can be used. The training is very centralized and there's quality control. When we start broadening that out on the cases that we use it loses some of its impact and effect. The way I like to say it is it's similar to a mammogram. A mammogram is 85 to 90% effective. We obviously need it. My wife was a huge beneficiary of it. It caught her breast cancer and potentially saved her life so she could get chemotherapy. But the first one was inconclusive. So what did we do? We went and got an MRI. We got, they took a biopsy of it. So that's the way polygraph should be used. It should be part of an investigation. It should be part of a hiring process. And in doing so, that's where its true effect comes. Because I'm going to be straight with you. When, whether local, state, federal, when we use polygraph, the things that come out of that, as far as the reportable information, blows your mind. I've had applicants admit to shooting people, stabbing people, robbing people, raping people. They came in looking for a job, and now they're going to get arrested. This is not just me. This happens throughout the country, and it's a very, very valuable tool when used effectively. And that's the key word there: used effectively. Because I've had cases where it's been wrong. Okay, so now as far as countermeasures, I hear this. This is the next question I usually get. People are like, "Well, put a tack in your shoe, do this, squeeze that, smooth that, whatever the case may be." And the thing I always tell people is, look, if you're honest on your application forms, especially in today's law enforcement, we allow people many times to use illegal drugs up to a certain point. Put it down on your forms. The only thing they're really testing you and deriving the majority of the questions from are what's on those application forms. So if you're honest on that, chances are you will pass the polygraph. Now, if you're obviously dishonest on that, you're going to have some issues. So people, they'll go online, they'll go down a rabbit hole. It'll say, do this, do that in order to affect the outcome of the examination. You'll pass. The problem is they don't understand. We do the same thing. We go and look at the same things. We know what normal physiology looks like, and we know what abnormal physiology looks like. And I can tell you right now, this is not information that we go out and report after the fact and say, hey, guess how many we caught? More people are caught trying to do countermeasures than people that would have been a false positive. It is the case. And it hurts me all the time to see good men and women that would have flown through this exam, but they took bad advice. They went for that life preserver. And the other analogy I give real quick, Dennis, is a lot of pilots, because we'll travel armed, they'll ask me about polygraph when I'm checking in with them before I go sit down, and they'll talk about countermeasures. And I'll say, look, you could read a guide on how to fly this 727, right? They're like, yeah. How many pages is it? 1,000. Yeah. But if when the person went to come fly it for the first time, the windows were blocked off and the instrument panel was dark, they wouldn't know what the inputs were doing, what the throttle was doing, what the rudders or flaps were doing, right? Oh, yeah, that's a good point. I said, exactly. They don't see what's happening on the other side of the screen with what they're doing. So they're doing too much or too little, and we see it. And that's the sad part. So that's the only soapbox thing I will say about polygraph is it's not perfect. It's a really good mousetrap when used in the appropriate environment. And we're always looking to improve upon it. But be honest on your application forms, get a good night's sleep, get in your daily routine, eat your normal breakfast, and chances are you will have a good outcome.
Can you see past or through the nervousness and try to get good results when people are a
Yes,
fucking wreck coming for a job at the Secret
100%.
Service?
Yeah, it's a significant life event. I mean, we've had people pass out in the chair, whatever the case may be, because they're so. And that's where a good examiner, you have the instrument and then you have the human element where I'm going to take an hour and talk to you ahead of time. I'm going to calibrate you. When I'm doing a crim test, I'll get you a snack. A mammal does not eat if their nervousness and heart rate's at a certain point. So that's a good barometer for me. One, I get reciprocity from it. But two, it looks great in court also on these crim cases to provide them something to food, drink, water, restroom. But it lets me see that, okay, now they're comfortable. And I can see the rise and fall of the chest. Are they doing chest breathing versus abdominal breathing? Can I see those distended veins? Are they sweating? Those types of things. And I don't do that from a situation where I'm trying to put them in. I'm talking to them in the same voice that I'm talking to you now. My goal is to not stress them out. My goal is to get them in the right headspace where they can be honest. So the myths about interrogation and good cop, bad cop, and slamming your hands on the chest. I want good cop, great cop. I want to be the best person in the room. I don't want to be their friend, but I want to be their advocate. And when people truly feel that, when you're curious with people and you honestly want to know about them, I'll tell you real quick, Dennis, the best thing that ever happened to me was during grad school. For 3 years, I worked at the city lockup as an interviewer in St. Louis City. And they would get a Snickers bar and a Mountain Dew if they talked to me. And I got paid by the hour and it was a great job. So I just talked to all these people that I never would have met in my life if for not this. And I would ask them, hey, how do you make crack? I would ask them, how do you make heroin? How do you prepare your heroin? Okay, so then you use this to pull it through. Hey, you're a pimp. How do you get the biggest return on your investment? Like when you ask curious questions of people, they go from I'm being interrogated to they go to teaching mode. Their heart rate goes down. They feel comfortable with you. And field officers can do the same thing. When you get in small talk with people and you ask them about their garden, you ask them about their car, you ask them about their house, you'd be surprised. It's not this you versus me. They teach you. I don't line up chest to chest with people when I'm talking to them. I act like I'm around a campfire. I get off on one knee. I turn slightly. The reason we do that is we're working on a situation together. Too often, law enforcement, what do? We get up, we blade, we don't shake hands. You should shake hands with every human being that you talk to, and it should be dry. I put antiperspirant on my hands, my right hand. You never get a sweaty handshake from me. It's going to be down at a 45-degree angle. I'm going to look them in the eyes, and it's going to be warm, meaning, when I come around the corner to shake your hand, I'm going to have warmed it up ahead of time. So a great handshake, good presence in front of them, eye contact, using their first name and not your title. Those are things that are very, very important to me to getting that good first impression. Your complaints are going to go down significantly. Your resistance is going to go down significantly. And when you understand body language and understand how to de-escalate through your body language, you're going to find you're going to get a lot more compliance from people.
Do people know that you're the guy, right? Like there's a polygraph guy and then there's a guy like you. Do they know that you're the guy and your qualifications when they're sitting down? And does that create more anxiety?
No, I will always avoid that because I think it's kind of like if you ever put out that you're the closer, it'd be like when you're buying the car and they bring out their closer manager. That's such a creepy, weird thing. You feel like you're being sold to. So I never want that. I want to let them know I have experience and competence, right? I want warmth, competency. I want that. I want to say things like, hey, I've seen hundreds of situations just like this because misery loves company. But what I don't want them to think is that I'm the closer, because that's going to actually work against me. And like you say, that's going to increase that anxiety. So professionalism without cockiness. I don't want them to see cockiness.
So can the machine be manipulated? And I just remember reading a book 20 something years ago, and all I just remember is puckering the anus.
Yeah, right. That's very common. And obviously there's countermeasures to the countermeasures, but yeah, you can, man, if you want to come in and you want to mess with your physiology, it would be the same as if, man, I just used weed last night and I need to mess with this urinalysis on this random testing I got. So I watered down the urinalysis. Well, what does that say about what's probably in your urine? So that's what I always say to people is you come in and you mess with the test. What is it saying about you as far as getting this job? It means you've got something to hide and you're not playing by the rules. And a lot of times you could have made an admission that you would have still got hired. But when you do a countermeasure, a lot of times the adjudication process will say, well, we don't want a cop like that because it shows they're going to continue to not follow rules as far as, the hiring process. So once again, I sound like I'm obviously a party that, is going to, because I've done polygraph for 17 years, that I'll say these things. I'm just telling you, if I was an outsider that had researched these things, I would say the same things. Is you're hurting yourself by doing this, and competent polygraph examiners are going to catch you.
Do you think that somebody has used a countermeasure, not where you've caught it, but you haven't caught it?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not perfect. It's an imperfect instrument. I'm an imperfect person. We all make mistakes. I'm sure if you go back to your time on the street, that you would sit there and think, I missed this, I shook somebody down and I missed this or whatever. That's going to happen. You're going to have your off days. But I would say that's the beauty of having a good quality control and having oversight is that's where they pick that up. And there's been times where they picked it up and I didn't catch it. I had confirmation bias, and that's the worst thing you can have. Horns and halos. We put halos on people too quickly in the interview room and horns on ones that we don't like, and we see everything through that prism. It gets false confessions. I'll tell you a real quick story, Dennis. We're doing a search warrant, and my partner and I are coming around a corner. It's on an Internet Crimes Against Children case, so a CSAM case. And you mentioned, I'll give you a movie reference at the end of this, but we come around the corner and we see a pit bull and we see a chihuahua and we see a young kid, mentally disabled kid. And I got the pit bull and the chihuahua. They're both not happy to see me. Where's our gun trained? The pit bull, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, obviously, right? Like, I don't want to have to shoot this dog, especially right in front of this kid, but this is, the owner is not able to restrain this animal and it's coming at us. So my partner and I are trained on the pit bull. Well, the chihuahua comes around, gets behind me, jumps up and grabs me by my genitals and is dangling from my genitals. Okay. So I've got to holster up. I've got to secure it. Luckily, my wife had just got me these like Duluth Trading Company fire hose pants that were a thicker material. Saved my life. I'd be talking at a higher octave right now. Right.
Oh, shit.
So I had put horns and halos on the wrong thing. Now, to go back to yours, there's something about Mary reference. In the back of my head, I'm thinking Frankenbeans at that point. Okay. Is that in a tactical situation, my gut was right because the chihuahua didn't hurt me. It embarrassed me. It hurt for a second, but if that was the pit bull, it would have hurt me significantly. So I was right from a tactical situation. But if we were in a business setting, a personal setting, a friend setting, I used predisposition and biases to make the wrong call. So that's what I'm trying to get across is in a tactical situation, trust the gut, back up, whatever's going to hurt you the most, have your focus on. But if we were doing an interview, you need to collect more input before you quickly assign that horn and that halo to that person.
So let me ask you this. And they were talking about qualifications and different kinds of examiners. Are there bad examiners? How do you know? And are there minimum standards in some polygraph community that nobody knows about?
Yeah, there's definitely good standards. I mean, the American Polygraph Association, American Association of Police Polygraphers, they do a really good job of certifying people as best they can, but it's very, very difficult. If you're in a small department, you may not have a rigid quality control process. And that's not to say that those examiners aren't amazing examiners. They just may not be exposed to some of the things that other examiners are. So just like any cop, any SWAT team, any counter sniper, whatever the case may be, there's different levels. I would definitely agree that there are different levels because it's the instrument is one thing. The person operating the instrument is completely different. You have the greatest weapon system on the planet, but it's how you employ that weapon system that means everything. So yeah, there's definitely levels when it comes to that. And I guess how you would determine that is what's your inconclusive rate, what's your admission rate. Are you walking into the room and are you coming out with reportable information? Or are you coming out with conclusive results? It's kind of like you could almost say it's like baseball. What's your batting average? What's your slugging percentage? How many times you strike out? That type of thing is we can have those same metrics as well.
I have to, when I do this profession, recognize that every so often a nutty person comes along, and sometimes that nutty person is a cop. It happens. I've come across some real nutball cops. Dangerous to themselves more than anything, and I don't mean that in a suicidal sense. Mm-hmm. They're just, it doesn't take long for them to be ousted, fired, toast, and then it's everybody else's fault but themselves. They just have a very low threshold for self-recognition of the negative things that they're doing. They just, for some odd reason, but I think sometimes that gets mischaracterized with people who have, maybe slower learners or tried doing the right thing and just keep messing up versus somebody who's a little off their rocker. Now, when people are trying to get on jobs, namely law enforcement ones, or trying to go from an agency to another agency, I feel like sometimes in the process, when we talk about these halos and horns, they are misunderstood. I feel like I'm a misunderstood person, and I have empathy for people who are misunderstood because I know at their core, they're not bad people. And again, I have to acknowledge the fact that there's some fucking nuttards. So with that being said, I could be wrong, but I also believe that the polygraph system in the hiring process is used to eliminate candidates. And when they eliminate candidates, because it's an easy out, because you don't have to share results essentially, or have your controls and variables and show the differences. What these agencies don't realize is just because this person's not for you, now you fucked their career up or their possible career that could have been great. And now because they failed a poly, they've got to explain this forever. And that's where the angst, a lot of it is, because that's fucked up. And I know for a fact it happens because I know people who do it.
Yeah, no, I hear that, and I hear that concern a lot, Dennis. And I think the way around that is a lot of agencies don't share their results or the results of one agency, and I know there are ours that do. Okay, and obviously you're speaking from a place of truth, but I do know that a lot of agencies either don't share their results or other agencies don't honor other people's results, because I know Secret Service, you'd have to pass our polygraph. It doesn't matter what you passed with any other agency, you'd have to pass ours. So many organizations are like that. So whether you failed another's or not, you have to pass ours. So that is out there, and that is an issue that I think some of the organizations that regulate this type of stuff are trying to control, so that it doesn't hang over your head like a cloud for the rest of your, you never want that to happen to a 21-year-old applicant to a law enforcement organization, that, hey, whatever happened, for the next 20 years, that follows you. And for the most part, that's not the case. Yeah. For the most part, it's not, but there are some.
It does happen, man. Like it does happen. It certainly does. I've known guys and girls who were completely blackballed by one agency. And when another agency, maybe in 6 months, picks them up, they end up being these profound, amazing cops.
Now,
but they put the bad taste in somebody's mouth in the hiring process somewhere else.
Now, I will say this: there are a lot of people out there that they've come in, and whether it be with me or another examiner, they've had issues and they've admitted to domestic violence. They've admitted to other things like that. And because it was pre-law enforcement, there wasn't, certain, aspects of them losing their gun if they were a current, cop. But they'll come back 6 months later, or they'll post to a forum and say, hey, I've been blackballed. I've been this, I passed my polygraph and they told me that, whatever. And I know that's not the case. I know they failed, and I know they made significant admissions to CSAM, to bestiality, to crazy things, right? But obviously, to save face, they're telling all their buddies and their friends, so on and so forth.
Wait, applicants have fucking admitted to things like that?
Cows, pigs, goats, horses, alpacas. Yeah, take your pick.
Come on, dude.
No.
That's fucking insane. Now, again, I'm not somebody who's drawing a hard, fast line on I'm just the defender of. I still think it's a process. It's just that, how do we get to a place? And dude, I'm telling you, the anxiety and the reach outs that I have from, we've got a lot of followers on this platform, and they're like, dude, I know somebody who, like, they didn't want this person back at their old agency, and they failed that person on a poly on purpose. I know, I can give you one story that I know somebody very close to me who was very nervous about doing their polygraph, sat in the waiting room. The guy before him was in there for like an hour and a half, and I'm reading your body language because you're smiling. Your micro expressions are giving it away there, investigator.
Macro expressions, yeah.
Yeah. So it's a micro into a macro. And then like, he was in and out in 5 minutes. And I've explained to him, like, first of all, everybody wants you. And there's a whole backstory of what, like, this dude is like the creme de la creme fucking cop that every agency would fucking trade 5 people in for, like, changing testing so he can get to place it, like the whole thing. And well deserved. Maybe pisses people. Great human being, fucking phenomenal, great. This is it. I told this person that I know very well, you're gonna be a star in this game. And I knew the kid when he was a kid. I'm like, you're gonna be a fucking star. And it's just true to fact, as I predicted, because what I can tell you why I knew he's gonna be a star is, on top of all his amazing qualities and his profound physical abilities and great personality, the guy never talks shit about anybody. He avoids it like the plague, never gets into the bullshit. And I just said, that's gonna be your sauce that they're gonna love you on. He's like, he's funny dude, but never crosses that line of pissing anybody off. And if he does, it's always like, oh, dude, I didn't mean to do that, So I said to him, there is a likelihood that they started uncovering things and they were going. There's also a likelihood that they had to fucking make a case in case this dude wants to come back and say this was a biased polygraph exam. They're going to dig and pry and try to get these results that they need to pad themselves from just. And unfortunately, you can't say in this day and age, like, hey, we don't want you. This is the best scapegoat that we have. And because people want right? Because people won't accept it. They won't say, well, why don't you want me? It doesn't fucking matter why I don't want you. I don't want you here.
Yeah, I would say we've progressed in the last 15 years, moving, if you want to use, how things went from dash cam to body cam, and how that helps cops a lot more than it hurts them. It really helps us in Polygraph because I would have to look at a lot of our complaints, and these allegations were through the roof. Touched me inappropriately, did X, Y, and Z to me, racial, this, that, and the other. And I look at the tape and it's not there at all. And at the end, you treated me fairly. Absolutely. Thank you, Brad, so much. Like that type of stuff. So I will say there's a lot of after action where people say that I was treated this way or whatever the case may be. And when you really dig into it, it's not the case. But I know there are cases out there. And I think a lot of agencies are, people can appeal the result. They can, I don't know how to explain this without getting too much into the weeds with Polygraph, but from passing to failing, we've got a pretty good gulf when it comes to how we score things. The wider you make that gulf, the more inconclusives you'd have. There are a lot of agencies that understand that, and they make that gulf pretty wide so that, hey, I'd rather have somebody that's inconclusive and we do it again than risk potentially getting a false positive. Because I'm going to tell you what, that's the worst day of my life if I would do that to somebody. So I truly believe that most examiners are ethical people and they're not out there doing those things, but I haven't been in every room and I can't speak for everybody that's out there. So
I would love to believe that too. And I bet that a majority of them are, but I've been in this game,
I understand.
not too far behind you. My second job was the Park Police in '04. I mean, I'm not trying to play, I'm just saying like especially being in this position I've been in for the past decade and hearing all this shit that comes back. Sometimes the stuff's like, you can't make this stuff up. And just knowing that some of the motives of some of these agencies are just their behavior is so awful. I mean, just really ran by horrible, horrible human beings. Let's think of one. And I'll take the heat on this one. Who's an awful Michigan State Police colonel? Literally had to have a fucking Senate hearing. They wanted to throw him off, but he still had the car. This guy is hated. Like 98.7% non-confidence from every trooper. Still the fucking colonel. And by the way, you could even bring this over to like, even if you're an idiot, but you're nice, people will give you the pass. How many chiefs, and that are idiots, but they're good dudes? I've seen chiefs who were handled by their subordinates and protected by their subordinates because the chief was such a good guy or such a good girl that their subordinates, even though they knew that he wasn't the smartest guy in the room, knew that he was a good, decent human being. And, would always have their back. And, so there's a lot of ways looking at this. I'm not trying to sit here and sling mud at the polygraph examiners. I know it's a really important tool to have. Yep. I'm just trying to think about and maybe even give an opportunity to get clarification from a guy who knows. You know what I mean? You don't take it that way, do you?
No, not at all. I mean, I view it just as a tool, and a hammer can be used for good and it can be used for bad, right? I mean, and that's how you have to look at it. I look at it as when we use this on traveler cases for people coming to meet kids, and we use this on CSAM following search warrants, we go from a 5% admission rate for hands-on contact without polygraph to 61%. I mean, I just look at it that. I mean, there's a 61% chance now I'm going to come out with a live victim. So, the utility of it in applicants and in situations like that is unbelievable. And I can't tell you how many times I've used it where the detectives are like, there's no doubt in my mind that person is the killer. There's no doubt in my mind that we had somebody that was convicted of terrorism, material support of terrorism. They both passed. Turned out they had nothing to do with it. So It's a tool.
Yeah, it does more good than bad, right? We know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know it does more good than bad. It's like anything else, it can be abused.
100%. Yeah.
If somebody fails a polygraph, are there any suggestions when, maybe somebody's feeling that, look, dude, I mean, maybe they were misunderstood and they were set up for failure. What could they do to counter that? And it may be, a local thing and a case-by-case thing, but are there examiners that are professionals that also aren't biased? Because like everybody plays that game, right? You're hurt, your back hurts, go see your lawyer's doctor. He'll say your back's hurt, right? Go hire your own polygraph guy, bring the results to court. We're just trying to fool a jury of 9. So are there actual like places where people can go and get a real independent, neutral evaluation on what happened here, and is it worth it?
Yeah, absolutely. In some cases it is. Now, sometimes the provenance of who that examiner was, like for instance, my partner was the former program manager. My old partner was the former program manager of the Secret Service, and he does this now in Maryland. And he's amazing at it because he doesn't care if they pass or they fail. He's coming in true as an arbiter. He's like, okay. And some of it could be infidelity, or some of it could be, a criminal case where, you know what, there's no DNA, there's not a lot of evidence here. It's he said, she said. And he comes in, and there are many, many times that by taking that exam, knowing, the type of caliber of individual that he is that can go into the process to factor. But also there's times where people can shop for an exam. And what I mean by that is it's all in the questions that you're asked, right? Like if you ask a certain question to somebody, you could create an environment where they pass the examination just by the questions, that the relevant questions that were asked. So that's what you always have to look at when somebody is provided an exam. Who was the examiner and what were the questions that were asked?
Good shit. All right, last question.
Mhm.
Barring your profession as a polygraph examiner, a Secret Service agent, this great illustrious career that you had, and really cool shit, dude. Like, you're a great guy. I hope that everything we discussed today, knew that it was coming from a place of curiosity from
Yeah.
me. I wasn't trying to be
Yeah.
patronizing or fucking anything like
Nope.
that. Um, what advice would you give to a young police officer out of the academy, just got out of field training? We'll call it law enforcement officer in general. Life advice. And there's tons of it to give out,
Mhm.
but you could either have one piece of life advice, you want to do 3 or 5. Let's do that for the men and women that listen to
Yeah. I
this.
mean, obviously we talked some type of jujitsu, some types of self-defense, do judo, do wrestling, do something where you're touching and grabbing another human being. They're trying to pin you down or you're trying to pin them down. Something like that. Nutrition, eat right. Okay. Get sleep, get into the gym. It's not hard. You have 100 and some hours a week of free time. What you choose to do in your free time is where your priorities are. Now, it's important for you to know that about other people, is be curious about other people's interests. Ask about people's leisure activities. Let them teach you. When they do that, you're going to learn a lot. So too many times people come in, and I know I've done this, Dennis, many, many times. You come into a new assignment, new protective detail, come into polygraph, come into as a rescue swimmer or a boater or whatever, and you come in and you have this false sense of bravado, and you're just doing it out of self-protection, this ego mechanism, and it keeps us from learning. Come in and be the stupidest individual that you can be. Come in with eyes wide open and ears wide open, and use them in proportion, and just shut up. Okay, don't one up people. Okay, don't always have to have a story when they give you a story. Shut up, learn from their stories. And I know I didn't do that, and that hurt my learning curve. Is that be that white belt in life when it comes to, and don't try to get victories. Don't try to get to the detective bureau as quickly as you can. Learn the street. You know, when you become a detective, keep learning. Okay, so really invest in those communication skills, because too many times detectives may do one interview a week. Our street cops are doing 10 a day. All right. So too many times we look at, let's don't send the person to interview school till they become a detective. No, go take some interview classes as a detective. De-escalate as much as you can. Learn body language. Dress right. Look right. That's your presence. If you walk into a surgeon and he or she looks like they just got off the golf course, do you want them opening you up? Absolutely not. So look the part. You do those things. You show empathy with people when they need it, and you show that on the street, and you treat human beings with respect. In 27 years, Dennis, there's only been one person that hasn't shaken a hand that I've extended to them. Only one person. And that was a
Barack
truly awful
Obama?
person.
No, I'm just kidding.
That was
I'm
not
just joking.
definitely.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm
No,
joking.
you're good. Is that only one person? So don't be afraid. That's why we have hand sanitizer. Shake someone's hand, look them in the eyes, treat them with respect, and you would be amazed at how that's a universal concept. And we've gotten away from that.
I'll add to that and just say, even when I'm showing empathy, some people snicker at it.
Yeah.
Ignore the people who snicker at empathy. Just because it's not the cool thing to do in your circle at the moment doesn't mean it wasn't the cool thing to do. And what I hear from you is something that I think about myself all the time, is that you have to do a lot of unlearning to do a lot of learning. And what a lot
Mhm.
of us don't realize is that you've been taught and been taking in data on your socio environments your entire life. And maybe you could just ask yourself, maybe all these people weren't right. Maybe there's people that I like the way that they act or talk better. And I have to start getting all these things undone so I can do it and be the human being that I want to be. So be yourself, be an individual, even though it may not be the popular thing to do. And you don't have to be like everybody else. And I think that really sums up some of the things that you were saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. That FTO may have been great, but that FTO may not have been great, right? So be open to new ideas. Don't do things just because they've always been done that way. All right. That's the big problem is we are afraid to evolve. We are a glacier when it comes to evolution in law enforcement, and society is, you look at, here's what just to finish with this. Okay. Real quick, Dennis, is that you look at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it's 100 years old. Okay. This year, that's when the original Gracies opened their academy. What worked in 1925 works today, but there's, 1,000 things that have come and gone. Why did they stop getting taught? Because they didn't work. Because when they were battle tested, people realized that doesn't work. As a result, when somebody comes up with something new, we battle test it. Thousands of people try it out and it works. It gets moved, it gets taught. That's the beauty of that, is that in the real world environment, we can choke somebody out and then we can tap and we can start over. I wish we could do that in law enforcement. We can't, but we need to have that same kind of oversight where we try new things. We throw them in the hopper, we throw them in the, the melting pot and see what works, instead of just being stuck in the past with, well, that's the way I learned it 20 years ago.
Brad, where can people find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So bradleybeeler.com. My handles on Instagram and LinkedIn are Brad Beeler 1865. That's the year the Secret Service was founded. And then on bradleybeeler.com, you'll find upcoming book here in February, Tell Me Everything, where I basically talk about communication and, try to highlight that with stories that I saw in the Secret Service.
Is the book available now?
No, it's coming out in February. You can pre-order it, which the publisher always likes me to talk about because that helps sales. But it's something that, once again, I started out as a law enforcement book saying, hey, how can I help young officers? How can I help detectives, not do the mistakes that I did in interview rooms and level up a little bit quicker. And then I was blessed to get, a publishing company and then distribution by Simon & Schuster that said, hey, this is a communication book. Let's broaden this out. And that's kind of what we did with it. So try to make it more universal when it comes to that.
Let me get that audio book in, brother, if you want me to listen to it.
There you go. There you go. Absolutely.
You gotta get that audio book. All right. So with that being said, brother, what a fantastic time I had with you. This is so good. I actually knew immediately we were going to have a good podcast episode. And I want to thank you for taking time out of your day to come and give the gifts that you gave to everybody here today about maybe calming some of their anxiety down about these polygraph machines. And you probably saved some people's butts right now regarding these polygraph systems and machines. And honestly, maybe you've stirred up some thought in people's minds of like, hey, why don't we see if we can find a polygraph guy to get this motherfucker? Or if we're really on the fence with something, why don't we try to figure out how to get him into a poly machine or a poly room to try to figure out where we're going to go with this moving forward?
If that helps one person, Dennis, if that helps one person on one case, or one person goes and does jujitsu, it was worth the time here to talk today. Is that local law enforcement, state law enforcement does not get paid what they're worth. Okay. They have the highest risk. They are looked down upon by, sadly, a lot of society. So if anything that I can do can help that, that's great.
Thanks for being here, bro.
Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Street Cop Podcast. Definitely check out our website at streetcop.com for all your Street Cop needs, merch, classes, and the community. You don't want to miss out. We make these great things for you. You want to have them, you want to use them, and make your life easier as a police officer.